Ladies and gentlemen, make some noise. Please, let me share this while you're doing
Okay. So here has heard of Stove Team International. Do you know anything about it? You just heard of it. Okay. So, all right. Well, we're about to watch a presentation in just a minute, and the title of it is called 400 Cigarettes Per Hour. I know after watching it and learning more about it, going on their website, that's what was done at what I didn't know existed in the world that affected so many people. And we in this room, especially, and all Rotarians need to know about it because it's a problem that Rotarians in particular can do something about. And I think after you see this, you'll want to figure out how you can make a difference and make an impact on this issue. Stove Team International, it's a Rotarian out of Eugene, Oregon, and it's what it does is it facilitates the placement of safe, affordable, fuel-efficient cook stoves in Latin American countries. They work with local communities. They go in there and they help these local communities to set up their own company, if you will, to do the manufacturing of these stoves that then go into these homes. Stove Teams, they have an innovative model, awards for creating local employment while improving health and reducing air pollution. To date, their local projects started by Stove Team are in Guatemala, El Salvador, Nicaragua, Honduras, and Mexico. And they have produced 78,000 stoves so far. And I believe it started just a little bit over maybe 10 years ago. Just one person that saw an issue that needed a resolution. It's improved the lives of over 500,000 people, and it's prevented nearly 1 million. That's one of the things that Rotary cares about, is the environment and then the people, and especially children that are affected by this. Our host for this presentation, his name is Forrest Regner, and he's the operations director for Stove Team International. He's an environmentalist. He's a wilderness enthusiast. He is really excited about raising awareness for this issue of open fire cooking, and that's what we're going to be learning about and the effects of that. And to maximize the efficiency and the reach and the scalability of this particular program. So we'll watch it, and then at the end there's questions. It is a little bit interactive, even though it is a recorded presentation. So you'll see at the end, and I'm sure you'll have some questions for us. So thank you.
And it's like she said, it's very interactive at the end. Well, almost like a hoop, except we're playing against ourselves.
Yes, exactly.
Welcome to this interactive presentation we've created specifically for Rotary clubs, just like yours. My name is Forrest Regner. I'm the operations director for Stove Team International, an organization based in Oregon that works in Central America to provide cook stoves for families who would otherwise be cooking over open fires like the one you can see behind me. Stove Team was founded by a Rotarian here in Eugene, Oregon. And since that time, we've been supported by Rotary and Rotary International. We're so thankful for the support we've gained from Rotary. So thank you so much. I'd like to start out today with a short video that explains the issue of open fire cooking around the world. That video will go straight into a second half that shows Stove Team's founder, Nancy Hughes, talking about how she founded Stove Team with support from her Rotary Club. It's about 5 minutes long. I'll jump in at the end.
They make this world black. My hands were like grease. You couldn't wash it away. The pots were black. The air was black. It was impossible for breathing.
We have seen forest reserves in 3 years completely gone, not a single tree standing there.
3 billion people use biomass, so wood, dung, charcoal, agricultural waste, and they cook those on very rudimentary open fires.
The most dangerous activity a woman in the developing world, to them have a baby on the front or a baby on the back. So that baby is inhaling so much smoke, it's equivalent to 3 packs of cigarettes a day.
Cooking on an open fire contributes more black carbon to the atmosphere than all of the cars and the trucks in the world combined.
To make a ton of charcoal, it takes about 10 tons of trees. The forests are just vanishing.
The production and distribution of ultra clean cook stoves that nearly completely eliminate smoke and reduce fuel consumption.
This new stove, look at this with your eyes. There is less smoke and it uses much less fuel. The black is gone. I feel healthier and my children, they are no longer sick.
What's the best way to design a stove to reduce smoke and increase performance? Our goal is to really bring researchers, designers, engineers, business people together. So it takes all of these people all under one umbrella to get the right stove into the hands of women. By manufacturing cook stoves, we're going to save thousands of lives, more than 100 million trees. We're going to create local viable jobs, and we're going to reduce indoor air pollution. Opportunity. We hope to join us.
Well, in 2001, I lost my husband, a family doctor, to breast cancer. Had to figure out what to do with my life. So I joined Rotary and I volunteered for a medical team in Guatemala. And they asked me, what can you do? And I said, well, I don't know. I'm a mom, you know? So what they do, they put me in the horrifying to see what went on there. I mean, we were a team of 120 physicians, nurses, and support personnel. I saw babies who they couldn't intubate them. They couldn't put the tiny tubes down their throats. They were so choked with creosote. Babies died. So I realized what we were doing was really important. So I volunteered again the next year and the next. And on the third year, I was working in the kitchen. Yeah, what can I say? Anyway, so this young woman named Irma, who was about 18 years old, beautiful, speaking Quechua, came into the kitchen and she said, can you delay dinner? Because I want to thank the team. You see, I fell in an open cooking fire at the age of 2. My hands have been burned shut for 16 years. Your team has opened my hands. I mean, what are you going to do? So we delayed. This is the stupidest thing I ever heard. People are cooking inside their homes with a campfire.
Sometimes, you know,
That was my bathroom in the United States. So anyway, I came back and I went to the Rotary Club when I just joined, and I said, don't you do things about things, do stuff about things like this? So I hustled about 10 of my friends, you all can do that. And I said, okay, let's go to Guatemala and we're going to install stoves. We're going to be called the stove team to go along with the medical team. With me, and I thought we were hot stuff. You know, we put in 120 stoves and I thought, yeah, we've done it. Well, guess what? Then I went home and found out the need in Guatemala alone was for 6 million cook stoves. So I kind of stopped doing that. And then who knew the leading designer of Rocket Elbows cook stoves, lived 20 minutes from my home. I didn't know that. He knocked on the door and he said, "You can't stop doing what you're doing." And I said, "I'm over 60. I can do what I want."
All right, so that's Nancy Hughes, and that's how Stove Team's story started. Now, this is the part where the story gets really interesting. The man who came and knocked on Nancy's door is named Larry Winiarski. He's the original inventor of what's called the Rocket Elbow, which is a very simple but very effective design that allows for the combustion of wood to be used for cooking very efficiently. Just by chance, Larry lives in Oregon, and he came and knocked on Nancy's door, El Salvador, to meet with a man named Gustavo Pena, who had a workshop there. They spent several months designing Stove Team's first cook stove, called the Ecocina. This stove is designed to be built by local people using local materials, and it's designed to be perfect for cooking the foods that people in Latin America rely on, and using a method that's close enough to their traditional methods that we knew it would be used and enjoyed by people. It was going to dramatically improve health and save trees. And so the next step was to find a way to distribute these cook stoves to as many people as possible. Nancy was in her mid-60s at that point, and knowing that they needed to start a factory, she said the last thing in the world that she wanted was to own her own factory in El Salvador. So Stove Team was founded with a different model. It was founded with a model of helping local people to start their own stove building projects. We helped Gustavo to start our first partner factory in El Salvador at that time, which was a little over 10 years ago now. And after that, we moved on to 3 additional countries. Today, we have 4 partner projects that are operating right now, building stoves in El Salvador, Honduras, Nicaragua, and Guatemala. Each of these projects is being run by local people, and it's employing local people. And Stove Team's role all along the way has been to provide the support that each project needs to get off the ground. Administrative assistance in terms of helping to write grants, often in collaboration with Rotary clubs and districts and Rotary International. And it also looks like volunteer trips. Over the last 10 years, we have led 33 volunteer trips with over 500 volunteers, so many of them Rotarians. And we're looking forward to offering these trips again at the end of 2021, once we know it's safe to do so. So this innovative model of health has enabled Stove Team to grow tremendously over the past 10 years. At this point, we've distributed over 78,000 cook stoves. And because the average family is so large, at almost 8 people in the areas where we're working, that means we've directly impacted the lives of over 500,000 people. But unfortunately, the issue of open fire cooking is so much bigger than that. We previously thought that 3 billion people cooked this way around the world. From a large-scale study conducted by the World Bank, that number is actually 4 billion people. And this issue predominantly affects women and children. Women are the ones doing the cooking in most of these areas. The kids are at home being cared for, and they're stuck indoors with these fires all day long because it takes a very long time to cook enough food for a large family using a very inefficient method like a campfire, essentially. And the biggest health issue is the smoke. If you have a small room in your home with no ventilation whatsoever, it's the equivalent of burning 400 cigarettes every single hour inside of each of these homes. And for every person living in these homes, it's the equivalent of smoking 3 packs of cigarettes every day. Babies and small children are the most affected. They have tiny lungs that are still developing, more susceptible to the dangers of smoke. And as a result, this is the #1 leading cause of death for children in the world. The most staggering statistic is that this leads to 4 million deaths total every single year. And that number is enormous. It's double the number of people who die from AIDS and malaria combined every single year. Beyond the health effects of the smoke, children are susceptible to burns from these fires, which are often built directly on the ground. Kids are running around, and when they fall into these fires, they live with debilitating burns. For an example, this is Flavia. We met Flavia while she was carrying all of this wood on her head in rural Guatemala about a year ago. And she was kind enough to talk with us. She told us she's 72 years old. She's been carrying this much wood on top of her head every other day just to keep her fire burning, to cook for her family. The smoke from her fire has severely damaged her eyes, and carrying this much weight has seriously damaged her neck and her back over the years. And this is a huge burden for these families. It takes a tremendous amount of wood just to keep these fires burning, to cook for a large family every single day. In fact, it takes about 20 hours per week to collect enough wood for every family in many areas. Because it's so time consuming, this task often falls to children. As you can imagine, that's time when they're not getting an education. So an issue like this contributes to the poverty of a family, and a family's entire families are going to be stuck in the same situation generation after generation. Beyond the humanitarian and health issues associated with open fire cooking, there's also an environmental component. CO2 emissions from open cooking fires around the world are a huge contributor to climate change, but even more dangerous is something called black carbon that's emitted when material is burned with no filtration. And what's beyond climate change, of course, open fire cooking and the need for wood is driving deforestation, not just in Latin America, but around the entire world right now. So for all of these humanitarian and health and environmental issues associated with this problem, the amazing thing is that there is a solution to this particular issue that exists right now. And it's not very expensive, and it's very, very effective. And it's cook stoves. So this cook stove is stove teams Junia Justa, who helped to design the stove and popularize the stove in Central America. This stove is a little bit different from the Ecocina cook stove I showed previously. This stove is built in place inside each home by a team of local people employed by Stove Team right now in Guatemala. We started this project as a pilot program in Guatemala a year ago to test this new stove model. And I'm pleased to say it's been so incredibly successful that we expect to expand this same project to all of our. This stove's simple to make. It's made out of brick and mortar. On the inside, there are fire bricks that can withstand the incredible temperatures inside these stoves for many years. And then in between, we pour crushed pumice, which is a very insulating rock. So these stoves are cool to the touch on the outside, even when they've been burning hot all day long. Each of these stoves has a comal on top, which is essentially a griddle. It's perfect for making traditional foods in Latin America. And then crucially, each stove has a chimney. So where we can build one of these stoves. And that's the most important thing that these stoves do. In any
Get off your phone.
can come together and enjoy their time together and know that they're healthy inside their home. Beyond the benefits of eliminating smoke inside the home, there are many more benefits to every single stove. So because of the rocket chamber, each stove is much, much more efficient than an open fire. So these stoves only require half as much wood to cook the same meals, and food cooks much faster because it's heating up much more efficiently. Beyond that, because the stoves are cool to the touch, kids are no longer in any danger of burns. And then again, because the fire is burning so much hotter and so much more efficiently outside the home, there's only about 14% as much smoke being released into the environment. As a result of that, of CO2 each over the course of their lifespans. 15 tons of CO2 is equivalent to the average American's entire yearly carbon footprint. So for all these benefits, each of these stoves costs a total of $100 to produce. That money goes to pay for a local person to go into these homes and build the stove. It goes to pay for all of the locally sourced materials and the local transportation. And it goes to pay for follow-up on every single stove to make sure that it's in Guatemala right now. We're working with a municipality called San Martin Jalotepeque. That's a large rural region of Guatemala that's very impoverished. Many people are living on less than $1 a day. We've contracted with the municipality to provide 5,000 of these Justa Cook stoves over the next 3 years. By the end of 2021, our goal is to raise $138,000 so that our team of 10 local people can continue building these stoves. I wanted to check back in with Flavia. So I showed Flavia previously when she was carrying all that wood on her head. We provided a Justa Cook stove for Flavia as soon as we could. And I'm pleased to say she'll never have to worry about the danger of smoke in her eyes again. And she'll never have to carry so much wood just to keep her fire burning. Flavia's story is just one story of a family who received one of our stoves. One of my favorite stories from the last few months is the Perez family. We interviewed the Perez family back in how receiving a Justa Cook stove had benefited each of their lives individually. And it's fascinating to hear how far the benefits of a simple thing like a stove can ripple out into a community that's so desperately in need. After we interviewed this family, the father of the family, Lionel, came and worked for us, and he still is working for us, building cook stoves in Guatemala. And because of the added income that he's gaining now, he and his wife, Amanda, are able to send their daughter, Lourdes, to a special school for the deaf. Meeting these families and hearing the stories on the micro level of what we're doing, it allows us to connect with the families that we're benefiting on a very important level. And it shows us how much more we have in common with these families than the differences that we see on the outside when we look at their lives and how different our lives look at the outset. The fact is, we all want the same things at the end of the day. We all want what's best for our families. And after spending enough time with the people that we're benefiting, who happen to live a couple thousand miles away. I wanted to give a couple current events and updates from Stove Team. So this is Alida Olivas. She's the new owner of our partner factory in Nicaragua. She's a first-time business owner, and she's been so fired up to own her own business. And we've been thrilled to support her, even through the difficulty of coronavirus and tough economic times in Nicaragua. She steered her factory beautifully, and I'm pleased to say that it continues to thrive today. Peña, he still owns our partner factory in El Salvador, and about 2 years ago, he started a that are in isolated areas and teaching kids and the dangers of smoke, which many of them had never heard about. And then he's showing them that a cook stove can be a viable option for their family. This has been a very effective program, and we're going to be expanding it to all of our other partner projects in the future. Every school that we visit, institutional stoves that they can cook for the whole student body using. These stoves are perfect for large institutions that are often cooking over large open fires themselves. I wanted to take a second and say thank you so much for being Rotarians. Like I mentioned, Stove Team literally wouldn't exist without Rotary support. We were founded by a Rotarian with crucial support from a Rotary Club. And all along the way, Rotary clubs and districts all across the country have supported Stove Team's work. So where are we going next? So Stove Team has directly benefited the lives of almost 600,000 people at this point. But we understand that there's a need just in Central America for approximately 20 million cook stoves. And again, around the world, 4 billion people are suffering from the health consequences of cooking using this dangerous and inefficient method. So we've created a fantastic model for starting these serving their own regions, so that Stove Team can move on and do the same thing in new regions that have a need for stoves as well. The only hang up here is that every single stove is provided by a donation. So what we need to do is raise a tremendous amount of awareness. We'll never be able to tackle this issue on the scale on which it deserves until we can elevate the status of this issue to be the same as worldwide epidemics like AIDS and malaria, that everyone knows will be able to rise to meet the need that this exists on. If you want to get involved, please visit our website at stoveteam.org. Send us an email, sign up for our email newsletter, share this in conversation. Tell somebody about what you learned here today. 4 billion people cook this way. 4 million people die every single year from open fire cooking, mostly women and children. We have a little time for questions. So some questions are going to pop up above my questions that you'd like answered. Your meeting host can click on any of these options and I'll pop up to answer the question.
Can you guys actually see the questions over here? Or you want me to call some up? Can see them? Yeah, first one. Wait, how do I make it happen? Make it happen, Ben. Click on it.
What? Stove Team's always looking toward the future and trying to understand what the most sustainable long-term option can be for Latin America. Unfortunately, at this point, what we've found through extensive research and over the last decade is that in rural areas of Central America especially, there is no dependable supply network for any alternative fuel other than wood. And that includes liquefied petroleum gas and electricity, these alternative fuels. But the supply network is so undependable that as soon as a family is not able to get a hold of those alternative fuels, they're going to revert back to using their open cooking fire. And then they might do that permanently. We're committed to providing a new option for these families that they can rely on every single day.
Any other questions?
Water sanitation and reforestation. So these are super important issues as well. What Stove Team has found is that since we're a small organization that is laser focused on providing cook stoves and doing the best possible job at that specific mission, we've decided instead to partner with other organizations that provide water sanitation and reforestation, organizations that have made it their mission to do a great job at those specific organizations that do reforestation projects and water sanitation projects. And we hope to do it more in the future.
All right, we're gonna keep going.
Thank you so much for having me. I hope to get to talk to all of you again soon. And don't forget that maybe the most important thing any of us can do for this issue is to help raise awareness. Bring it up and talk to someone about it, forward an email on. Please visit our website. Stove Team.
I'm glad for that.